Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Aysh and in this video I'm just going to be telling you how to become a body piercer. So I get a lot of questions on how to become a body piercer and like how I got into my career and things like that, and I've been a bit hesitant to film this video because admittedly I did not go down the right path when I chose this career. There's loads of videos out there telling you how to become a body piercer, and to be honest, all the information in those is usually correct. I'm only making this video because I've been asked to, and a lot of what I'm going to say is probably the same thing you've heard before. To become a body piercer, what you need to do is get an apprenticeship under another reputable body piercer, and to do that you're likely going to need to build a relationship with them, because if they're a reputable body piercer, the chances are there are loads of people trying to get an apprenticeship under them. Get pierced a lot and ask questions when you're getting pierced. Make sure you look after your piercings to show that you actually care about them and things like that. But yeah, just ask questions and hang out in the studio, maybe get tattooed there as well, just to kind of spend more time in the studio and get to know the other people in there. And then when that piercer does want to take on an apprentice, you are going to be one of the first people that they're going to think of, because you've shown that you've got an interest in piercing and a career. You've shown that you're asking questions, you're eager to learn, and you've hung out in the studio, so you've probably not only built a relationship with the piercer but also the other people working in the studio, so that kind of shows you're going to be a good fit in that environment. The apprenticeship may not come first. It may be that they're looking for counter staff, and because you've hung out in the studio so much and you kind of know how it works, that they think of you, and you might learn a lot in that role and then move on to being an apprentice under the piercer, like in a few months or a year or something like that. This isn't a quick process. Like, you can't just go to college and come out and know how to do the job. Like, your apprenticeship will need to be at least a year long, and you'll probably spend a lot of that time not even piercing or touching needles or anything. You'll probably spend it learning about hygiene and placement and watching your mentor pierce and things like that. So don't expect this to be a quick process. It's going to be a long process, but it's going to be worth it, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. Now, as I said at the beginning of this video, I did not go down the right path when choosing this career, and what I basically did was a piercing course. So I've mentioned before that I wanted to be a piercer at like 16 and things like that, and when I googled back then, that was what came up. So I'd known about piercing courses for quite a while, and when I did my piercing course, I wasn't fully intending it to become my career. It was just something I wanted to learn in general. It was more of a side thing. I was doing marketing at the time, and I thought that was still going to be my main thing, but I ended up just really enjoying myself, so it did become my career. So it not being the focus of my career was one of the reasons why I didn't do an apprenticeship. The other reasons were I live in London. It's very expensive to live in London, and I didn't think that I could afford to live on the kind of money an apprentice piercer makes. Another reason I didn't do an apprenticeship was basically due to lack of research. Like, I wanted to be a piercer at 16, and then I started doing marketing, and I hadn't really looked into it until like a few weeks before I did this course. So I hadn't really researched it since then. I hadn't been thorough about it. Like, I'd kind of given up on the piercing thing. So yeah, I hadn't researched enough to know that courses weren't the way to go, and that apprenticeships were the only respectable way to become a body piercer. And I guess another reason that I didn't know this is because I hadn't been hanging out in piercing shops. In the last 3 years or so before doing the piercing course, I'd been pierced maybe about 5 times, and 2 of those were for my third lobes. So I hadn't really been hanging out in shops. I hadn't really been getting pierced. I'd kind of like not put it on hold, but like there wasn't more things I'd wanted done. And it wasn't until I started piercing that I was like, oh, I want this done and I want this done. And I started seeing things that were wrong with piercings I already had and getting them redone. So yeah, I hadn't been hanging out in shops, and I hadn't done enough research, and I didn't think that this was going to be the career that I chose to move forward with. I thought this was going to be a side thing, and I would still be very much a marketing person. So yeah, I did a 4-day piercing course back in 2016. And because of the knowledge I already had on piercings from the ones I had and things like that, it felt quite easy to me, at least the theory part did. And I left feeling confident and capable and ready to pierce the public. So yeah, after this course I worked in various studios, and I did spend 4 months as the only piercer in a tattoo studio, but the owner had also previously been a piercer, so she did help me when I needed help with things like BCRs, because I used to never be able to do those. And yeah, I didn't really run into any major problems. Like, I don't think any of my piercings were terrible enough that I kind of realised like, oh shit, I can't do this. They weren't the best, like they weren't amazing, but I felt like most of my struggle was more about how I was doing something rather than like how it came out. At this point, I knew I had little experience and I was just a baby piercer, and it wasn't until I moved to a high volume studio that my lack of knowledge became apparent. But being in such a busy studio and around other more experienced piercers showed me just how much I didn't know. Thankfully, with the help of the other piercers, I was able to gain some of the knowledge that I was lacking, and also due to the high volume of customers that the studio had, I was able to gain quite a lot of the experience that I was lacking in quite a short time. As well as learning from other piercers there, I also read quite a lot of books and textbooks on things like piercing and anatomy. And I also watched lots of YouTube videos from the likes of JC Potts, Louis Garcia and Ruben Liu, just to see how they did things and what techniques they used, especially if it was something that I was struggling with or something I hadn't done many of, and I found those really helpful. Obviously those videos aren't a substitute for proper teaching, and even though I feel like I have a lot more knowledge now, as I've said in other videos, this is the kind of job where you are still learning constantly, and I stand by that. Like, even if you do an apprenticeship, you're still going to be learning once you finish that apprenticeship, and you're going to continue to learn for the rest of your career. Like in this career, you're always going to have new anatomies coming in, and you're always going to have someone who wants something a little bit different, and I also think there's always going to be a better way to do things, and it's just about finding it. So I'm telling you this because I want to be completely honest and transparent about the way I train to be a piercer, and also I want to save you from making the mistake I did and doing a piercing course. Please do an apprenticeship. I implore you to do what I say and not as I do. So that is going to be the end of this video. If you have any questions, please make sure you comment them down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. But other than that, thanks for watching guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Just so you know, I've got loads of new stock over on wholeheartedlondon.com. This new high quality range not only looks stunning, but it's highly polished, internally threaded implant grade titanium, so it's great for your piercings too.